Welcome to See You on the Other Side, where the world of the mysterious collides with the world of entertainment. A discussion of art, music, movies, spirituality, the weird, and self-discovery. And now, your hosts, musicians and entertainers who have their own weakness for the weird, Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot.
Happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween, Wendy.
Happy Halloween, Mike.
So, what are you going as this year?
Well, I already went over the weekend. I went as a zombie. Went to our good friend Lisa's gigantic, awesome Halloween birthday bash.
Yeah, she did have a good one on Saturday.
Yeah, and I used the same zombie costume that I've had since around 2008, I think.
That's all right.
For that. But for actual Halloween, I'm going to go as Rocky Horror character Magenta.
Oh, that's
because I'm going to go see it for the first time.
sweet. Well, Magenta, you got to get your hairspray ready for that one.
Yeah. Oh, I'm ready.
Good. Well, that's a lot of fun. Well, you don't have to feel bad that you've been the same costume since 2008 because I wore the same Star Trek uniform I've had for 21 years.
Now that's getting your money's worth out of a costume.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
That's right. So I've had that same Star Trek shirt since 1996. And so I wore that on Saturday because I didn't feel like doing anything difficult to dress up.
Yeah, the makeup thing is always kind of a little bit of a hassle.
Right. But
smearing all that stuff all over your face. But there were some really cool costumes.
there were. I've got my costume ready for tomorrow, though. It's a group costume going as a surfer getting eaten by a shark.
Oh, the family costume.
Yeah, it's family costume time. And so, yeah, a little shark costume for the baby.
Oh, that's cute.
And she's been running. We've been testing it like around the house so that she's not like totally freaked out by the fact that she's got like something on her head and everything like that. So she's been running around as a little shark over the weekend. And
cute.
So that's going to be fun. And I'm looking forward to halfway through the trick-or-treating, dousing ourselves in blood because the baby shark eats the surfers.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, I think it will be fun. And so anyway, so Halloween, I'm looking forward to going. I haven't been trick or treating in 20 odd years, so I'm looking forward to getting some candy.
Yeah, that's cool. My neighborhood has been really quiet the past few years, and beyond that, I'm usually not home on Halloween, so I just shut off the light. And one year a couple of years I put a candy bowl out, knowing full well that somebody would probably take it and dump the whole thing into their bag. But I came back and the whole entire bowl was still there and full of candy. So I don't know. They must just, maybe they're scared of my place.
Or maybe people are just intrinsically good. Nah, that ain't true. We know that's not true.
Come on, Mike.
Anyway, everybody, you can feel free to tweet us pictures in your Halloween costume. We'll retweet them. If you do that to @OtherSideTalk on Twitter. We'd love to retweet you in your Halloween costume and show everybody what a cool thing. And Wendy, of course, will put some pictures of Magenta in there. And I'll bring the baby shark out probably for some pictures as well. So I hope everybody's happy Halloween. And that's what we're talking about today. But we're about to get to it. First, we have to talk about our latest 5-star review.
Oh, yeah. It's 5 stars, and it says, one of my favorite podcasts.
Oh, already love this guy.
By Fantas Photo. A very entertaining podcast that covers all things weird and spooky. Mike and Wendy ask very good questions of their guests and always keep it fresh and pithy.
Pithy, that's right. I've always been described as pithy.
The music they create for each episode is always enjoyable and creative. Such a unique, one-of-a-kind blend of weird stuff, laughs, seriousness, and music. Well, thank you, Fantas Photo. And
yes.
I'm going to take a guess here that it might be a friend that we have by the name of Corey, who is an awesome photographer.
Yes.
And so we'll give him a quick shout, too, because you should definitely check out his work. We've seen him at several of the paranormal conferences, and you can find that at phantasmagoriaphoto.com. So thank you, Corey.
Yes, thank you
very
very
much.
Assuming
That's you.
I was just thinking about him today as I came over to the studio here because his card is still in the cup holder of the van.
Oh, cool.
So, Corey, we're thinking about you constantly now, man.
You're riding around in the van with Sunspot.
You are riding around with us. Thank you for the 5-star review. We appreciate it. So today we're talking about Halloween traditions, fun things. I think for me it started really wanted to think about Halloween in the 1980s and my own Halloween traditions because I started watching Stranger Things 2. Now, we won't get too spoilery for everybody because I haven't even finished it. And Wendy, how much have you watched of it?
I saw the first episode of season 2 and part of the second one, but I fell asleep.
You passed out. It's all right.
It was a long weekend.
Yeah, it sure was. But Stranger Things 2, if you guys haven't checked it out, at least the first few were really good. And if it's as good as the first one, then I think we're all going to be happy. But it does look good. But if you guys haven't seen it, first of all, get Netflix, get the free trial, and you can watch the whole thing in a day.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But you have seen it. You know that it's all about Halloween in 1984. And the funny thing about Stranger Things, Wendy, I think, is that, number one, the Duffer Brothers, the guys who created it, are not old enough to even have been alive in the 80s. Or maybe not conscious or anything. They're young. The Duffer Brothers are young, and they just love 80s stuff.
Cool.
So I do appreciate the nostalgia coming from people who didn't even live through it. Because sometimes when I see the people that lived through it, like us, and you're talking to somebody about it, they're like, "Oh, I just remember things were so much simpler and better back then." It's easy to start getting all triacly and saccharine and all nostalgic about your.
Sure, of course. Your youth.
We talk about nostalgia, just as a thing that people use for marketing and stuff like that now. But the original word for nostalgia, the original meaning of nostalgia actually is a sickness that the Greeks would talk about, ancient Greeks would talk about, when people were out and they were boating around, or they were in the army and they were away from home. Nostalgia was the sickness, like a real homesickness that people felt.
Aww.
So when we talk about nostalgia, you have wistful and misty-eyed thinking about our youths and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm still holding on to my youth if I'm still wearing a Star Trek uniform that I had in my 20s.
Hey, don't let that go, Mike.
Not my 20s. I had that when I was 19. Oh, God.
Pre-20s.
Yeah, my pre-20s. I was like, oh, yeah, I wore it in my 20s. I'm like, oh, my God, no, I wore it in my teens. But that's the whole, so people thought of nostalgia as something that was actually bad because it made soldiers not want to be away from their moms. And I understand, because who does?
Right.
Especially when we're talking about the family and Halloween. And what I liked about Stranger Things 2 was everybody's at the arcade, even though they're way too into Dig Dug for, I think, than a regular 11-year-old. Dig Dug was fun.
Well, yeah, they keep walking right past that centipede machine, and I'm like, come on, that's way more fun.
Right, Centipede was way better for groups of kids to compete with each other.
Right.
Than Dig Dug was, because Centipede it was just the levels and more action and stuff.
Yeah. And
Dig Dug was a little bit slower. It just didn't seem a game like 4 kids that would go head to head at one time and play. But I did appreciate the Dragon's Lair.
Yeah, that was funny.
And Dragon's Lair, they even put in this one, and I don't know if the Duffer Brothers wrote that one or whoever, but Dragon's Lair did cost more than usual video games. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with Dragon's Lair, it's, how a regular video game, especially in the early 1980s, was cheesy graphics, like 8-bit. How did they look? It looked like stick figures most of the time, right, Wendy?
Yeah, I would say that's a good description.
Yeah. It's mostly looking at stick figures, kind of like the people with those SLS cameras. You see those stick figures, and I didn't realize that the technology from the SLS camera actually comes from the Microsoft, the Xbox Kinect.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
It's meant to pick up human movement. And so those are the patterns it's looking for. So it's it's like pareidolia. Pareidolia is where you see faces and everything. Like you look up in a cloud, you see a face. I'm looking at the wall right now, I see a face. And it's because our human minds are designed to see faces.
Patterns, right. Exactly.
And especially faces, because faces are unique. That's kind of how we differentiate each other. Like dogs have more unique smells. So a dog kind of looks like any other dog. Like a Cocker Spaniel looks like another Cocker Spaniel because they don't, I don't know if they see in black and white. Wendy, do dogs really see in black and white?
That's what they say, yeah, but I don't know. I'm not an expert on that.
No, I was just wondering if you knew that. Because you've had dogs and I've never had a dog, so I can't say.
Well, yeah, I've had dogs, but I didn't like do color tests with them or anything like that.
Or say like find the red, get the red marker for me spot. Rough. Anyway, so I was just wondering about that. But anyway, so humans, we're designed to see faces because that's how we differentiate each other. Just like dogs are designed to have such powerful smell, they can tell which dog is which from the smell.
Yeah.
So anyway, that just reminded me of the SLS cameras when I was thinking about 1980s video games, because that's what it looks like. Somebody superimposing like a 1980s video game over a thing and saying it's a ghost. I just don't buy it. But that's me, and that's all right. So Dragon's Lair was a cartoon that you could play, and you had to move the joystick at very specific times in one direction. Like you had to up, down, left, right. Those were your options. Move the joystick. Or hit the sword button. So you can move the joystick and hit the sword button, and there'd be a little pause, and then either you'd live or you'd die. But the time to hit the joystick was really, really specific.
Yeah.
You had like 2 seconds, or if not that, to do it right. And it was very arbitrary. You'd be like, oh, move left. And you try to move left, and if you didn't move at the exact right second, you die. And you blow through 50 cents because it would cost twice as much as a regular video game to play Dragon's Lair. So last night in the show, when he says like, oh, we're wasting, he's like, you're wasting my quarters. They made a comment about how Dragon's Lair was more expensive than the regular games. And I appreciated that little bit of accuracy there, because they're not always accurate in Stranger Things. They try. But that I really did appreciate that.
Yeah, that's true.
But they do the Halloween stuff. Like you can see that Winona Ryder, she's sewing a Ghostbusters patch. And
yeah. No, I love the Ghostbusters thing, but I don't want to give away too much because some people haven't seen the episode yet.
No, but they show them in the Ghostbusters uniforms in the promo.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that's why I brought up that, and they show them at the arcade and stuff like that. So I felt okay talking about it. We're not spoiling anything. To mention they're going to wear Ghostbusters uniforms at some point, and it's 1984. They're gonna, Halloween of 1984. They're gonna have to. And the thing that I wonder if they're gonna bring in, talking about Halloween in the 1980s, is are they gonna bring in any of the Satanic Panic stuff?
Ooh, yeah, that would have been relevant to that time, huh?
Oh, absolutely. They do bring in a little bit of that Russian hysteria. That comes in. That even comes in the first season. They talk about people are scared of the Russians. And it's weird. Like I did think of the Russians as bad guys in the 1980s. Totally. And it was something you were worried about. Listen to this. Now, since Allison's not here to tell this story, the Russian panic kind of thing. She was dating a guy who, and this is high school, she's dating somebody that is like, he wants to go into the army. And when Chernobyl happens, he calls up Alice. He's like, here's the great thing that happened in Russia today.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and Allison is such a peacenik and a hippie. And I mean, she was just, she was like in tears over a nuclear radiation and stuff like that. And he calls up and says that, and I think that might have been the beginning of the end for that relationship. But I remember she told me about it. I'm like, and even as a little kid who loved G.I. Joe and hated the commies, I was like, you don't wish bad things upon the regular guys and stuff.
No, of course not.
But it really was, you thought of Russia as the enemy and scary and nuclear war and everything. And all of a sudden in 1989, well, that's over. We're buddies now. Yeah. Like that's you just realize how much bull crap is given to us by governments when you understand that a year before people are cheering Chernobyl and a year after we're all hugging over the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
But I like that they brought that Russian paranoia into Stranger Things a little bit, and I'm hoping that they bring the Satanic Panic. And we've obviously talked about the Satanic Panic a lot on the show.
Yeah, I think we had a whole episode about it, didn't we?
We've approached it. We've talked about false memories. We've talked about Dungeons and Dragons. We've never had the in-depth. I'm waiting to get like an expert, somebody that's written a book on it. And I really want to learn stuff that I don't know about the Satanic Panic. And this week I did. Specific to Halloween. So we're looking up different, things about Halloween, stuff that we didn't know. And I think that's the point. The point of this episode is to talk up things about Halloween that we didn't know. And not that I'm a Halloween expert, but I would say compared to most people, Wendy, you and I are Halloween experts.
We've done a fair amount of research into it.
Yes, we talked about Halloween several years in a row. We've played enough Halloween shows.
Yeah, I talk about it on the Waukesha Ghost Tour. You do? In the script that you wrote, so
right.
A little bit of history there.
And you do talk about, well, and we can actually mention a couple of things about that in a little bit. But this is something I didn't know about in 1989. So 1989, we were just talking about it. Fall of the Berlin Wall. Ghostbusters 2 came out. Star Trek 5 came out. But near Halloween, parents in North Carolina were reluctant to send their children out for Halloween candy because there were rumors that Satanists planned to abduct and murder them in ritual sacrifice.
That's scary.
Imagine that coming through the grapevine, or that on your Facebook feed. Hey, everybody, don't let your kids go out for Halloween this year because there's Satanists looking to kidnap your child and sacrifice them.
And that was back when you actually trusted the news. There weren't all these fake stories running around and
you'd read something
fake made up clickbait online.
Well, how many times has one of your older relatives sent you some kind of email that's some kind of some kind of chain or some kind of letter or something like that, email where they get something and it's an urban legend, like the thing about if somebody flashes the lights at you, it's a gang initiation,
right?
Or whatever. Or there's
gas pumps. They have needles on them.
Gas pumps with needles with AIDS on them or something. Like really was like that. Like, oh yeah, no, you can get AIDS from a gas pump needle. Like, oh my God, you cannot get AIDS from a gas pump needle, number one. And number two, nobody's doing that. But, they're sending, so it makes me think that there's generations of people that trusted the media in a way that we cannot now.
Yeah.
And so if they get this in their church bulletin or they get this in their, they talk to a friend, says, oh yeah, watch out for the Satanists. And the thing is, people did think that Satanists were running around in the 1980s. There was that famous McMartin daycare trial where they were saying that the people who ran the daycare were Satanists. And those guys were in jail for like over a decade. Before, there was no Satanist daycare where kids were getting molested and stuff. Are you people idiots? But this thing, Geraldo did stuff on Satanists. Sally Jesse Raphael did stuff on Satanists. Like the talk shows at the time were talking about these Satanists running wild and plotting things. And it's alive and well in some places. You can go on Reddit and you'll see people talking about Satanists and things. Right. So, don't go on Reddit if you can avoid it. But here's the actual news article, and this is from the newspaper. For weeks, law officers across the state have been fielding inquiries about reports of a plan by unidentified Satan worshipers to kidnap and sacrifice children, but they have found no evidence to support the rumors. We've had calls from people throughout the state asking about it, State Bureau of Investigation Deputy Director Charles Dunn said Friday. In backtracking on it, we have not been able to substantiate any of the rumors. The most common rumor is that a satanic cult plans to abduct one or more blonde-haired, blue-eyed children between the ages of 2 and 5 for a human sacrifice on Halloween. Garner Police Chief says all these parents of blonde-haired, blue-eyed children are frantic. I'll bet I've received 500 phone calls from mothers saying that they were going to dye their children's hair. So this is happening in 1989.
That's extreme.
This is the modern age. It's not, I guess it's the pre-internet age, but this is the modern age. And people are like, there's Satanists coming to capture your child. And the cops are just like, no, there's been no reports of Satanists really anywhere. Nothing to worry about. But I just wonder if they're going to tackle the satanic panic in Stranger Things, because that was that's a real thing. That is a real panic that people had, but they were worried that Satanists were going to come abduct children on Halloween, and nobody's going to abduct children. Satanists probably aren't going to abduct anybody this Halloween, and never really had because they didn't exist. I'm trying to think like what our current paranoia is that's like that, but I can't think of anything.
Well,
what? Go ahead.
Just recently, and we've talked about this before, but the trick or treat. The having poison candy, or there was an urban legend about a blue star fake tattoo, and if your kid got that, it was actually LSD, but it might be laced with strychnine.
I didn't know about the blue star tattoo.
Yeah, and recently I saw a friend of ours posted on Facebook, if your kid has any of these in their trick-or-treat bag, make sure you take them out because they're laced with marijuana. And they were like the little mini candy bars, but they're in a different kind of packaging. So I think that would probably be, it kind of perpetuates, but it started with the poison candy or the candy with the, needles in it. And
somebody did poison candy. One guy, a crazy guy in Texas in the 1970s, poisoned his kids.
Yeah. So sad.
Right, depressing. But that's the only case. Nobody, no strangers or weirdos are just poisoning candy, give it to kids. And I don't even.
Yeah, there haven't been any reports
right.
of kids getting sick from eating their trick or treat candy, other than maybe eating too much of it in one sitting.
Oh yeah, I mean, let's talk about. I think remember at the end of the Halloween night, it was just like a bonanza. You know, I was talking to our guitar player and his wife about the trick-or-treating and how they do it with their 5-year-old and stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm like, oh, no, we divide the candy up and everything, and it's going to be over time. And they had this really healthy outlook. And I'm thinking when I was a kid, I made it through like half the bag that night. And like if half the bag made it to the end of the week, then, you know, like I went for it. Like that Halloween candy haul.
Let me guess, all the Reese's peanut butter cups were gone first.
Oh, Reese's peanut butters and Snickers, like they were out there. Sometimes my sister would look in my bag and see what I got, like if I got anything better or different, and she'd swank it.
Yep. And then trade some things. We'd always dump our bags out, you know, and then if anybody had something they liked better or worse, we'd trade.
Well, Wendy, you like candy corn, don't you?
Oh, yeah, I love candy corn.
So you love candy corn. So you must have had like a bonanza on Halloween, because wasn't everybody trying to trade their candy corn to you?
I don't remember getting that much candy corn.
Oh,
and I haven't had any this year, by the way. I'm waiting. Okay. I think I'm going to have to hit up the post-Halloween clearance rack.
Oh, yeah.
Stock up.
That is the time. But it just amazes me, because I wouldn't even think about like saving candy or rationing it or whatever. And they were just so like, oh, no, she's going to have a few tonight and then a few the next night and then a few like, whoa, it's not going to make it to Saturday.
Well, your parents went by the, you know, let the kid learn his own lesson kind of thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Make your own rules.
Yeah, and I ate myself sick until I was like 15 years old. I think I stopped trick-or-treating when I was like 13, because I'm like, oh, that's for kids. And then a couple years later, I realized I wasn't getting candy on Halloween, so I started going out again. I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm handing out candy. Anyway, so... But that is a lot of fun, and I can't wait to start getting, because my child's not going to eat her candy, so I'm going to get the haul tomorrow, just like I'm 6 years old again, so I'm excited.
And then you can send the video into, is it Jimmy Fallon that has the thing where the parents tell their kids they ate all their Halloween candy?
Oh, that Jimmy Kimmel does that.
Jimmy Kimmel. I was getting mixed up.
Right, the Jimmys, the late night Jimmys.
Yeah.
But I always enjoyed trick-or-treating. And here's something I didn't know about trick-or-treating. Like we had talked about how people used to trick-or-treat on Thanksgiving in the United States, like originally. But there's an even older tradition that I'd never heard. I can't believe I didn't hear about this before, called soul caking.
Please share. I don't even know what that is.
So you never heard about soul caking? Okay.
No.
So... Now, I'd never heard this word before either, which makes me feel like, you know, I haven't been studying Halloween like I should, or maybe we're living in the Mandela effect world, and I didn't even realize.
What's going
on? Number one, All Hallows Eve, Halloween, All Saints Day, and All Souls Day. So All Saints Day, November 1st, All Souls Day, November 2nd. Hallowed, sacred, saints. So All Saints Day, the night before All Saints Day, is called All Hallows Eve, because you pray to the hallowed souls. You pray for the hallowed souls, the saints, that next day. And they call it All Hallowtide. Those 3 days are called All Hallowtide.
Okay.
Like we have Christmastide or Yuletide.
Yeah.
There's All Hallowtide. And I'd never heard that before.
All Hallowtide?
Yeah. So new word.
I guess I haven't heard that either, but it sounds fun.
Yeah. Well...
Makes me feel like Halloween is being stretched out a little longer.
Right. Well, they knew how to party. They 12 days. They really was 12 days of Christmas. Like they'd start Christmas Eve and they'd go until January 6th, and they just partied for 12 days. You know, now everybody goes back to work the day after Christmas. You know, I mean, obviously we have iPhones and stuff, and that's great, but we don't have 12. When's the last time we had a 12-day party?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's been a while.
One of the Sunspot tours.
Yeah, I was gonna say we had a 7-day party at South by this year, so it was pretty close, but not 12 days. Not at least since the last tour last year. Okay, so what would happen is souling, the trick or treating at the time was called souling, and kids would go, and they would go to the doors of like rich people and say that we would say prayers for your soul and the souls of your friends. Because there was a time early in the Christian church that they thought that people had a hard time getting to heaven because we're all sinners. There's the Christian concept of original sin. That's why we needed to be forgiven by Jesus, and he had to die on the cross and blah, blah, blah. You guys know the score. And so we're all sinners. And so we all have a hard time going to heaven. So we need people to pray for our souls after we die. Otherwise, we might not go to heaven. We might get stuck in purgatory. And right.
That doesn't sound fun.
No, nobody likes purgatory. I mean, don't they refer to in Chance Silent Stop, Bob Strike Back? Don't they? No, I'm sorry. In Dogma, don't they refer to Milwaukee as purgatory? Or something like that. They're like, yeah, even worse, Milwaukee.
Oh,
Make some kind of joke, and I'm watching
Ouch.
that, and I'm like, oh man. But anyway, people would have to pray for the souls of their relatives because they wanted their relatives to go to heaven and they wanted to go follow them to heaven. So the idea was the kids would go around and they say, oh, sir, we'll pray for the soul of you and your family if you give us a little cake. And then they would give them a little cake, and they call them a soul cake. And
I have not heard that.
yeah, right. I'd never heard about that during All Hallowtide is when they would do it. And so
All right.
it was, and poor people would do that too. If you didn't have food, you go. Here's a chance to get some cakes.
Maybe we should try that.
We should probably try to do it for.
Just start knocking on random doors and offering. And we should probably do it in that accent that you used.
Oh, sir. Right, that's a horrible. I'll pray for your soul if you give me a spot of
You
cake.
sound like Oliver Twist or something.
That's the point. Can I have some more? More. There's even a little like a soul cake song. God bless the master of this house, the mistress also, and all the little children that round the table you grow. Likewise, young men and maidens, your cattle and your store, and all that dwells within your gates, we wish you 10 times more. A soul cake. Please, good missus, a soul cake. An apple, a pear, a plum, or a cherry. Any good thing to make us all merry. 1 for Peter, 2 for Paul, 3 for him who made us all. And there was a little soul cake song.
Aw.
And even Peter, Paul, and Mary covered it. Sting covered it on his album, If It on a Winter's Night. Sting covered it on his Christmas album, which, since it's after 1994, it's probably a Sting song that isn't any good. No, I did like that Desert Rose song. Oh, hey, remember that Desert Rose song? That was pretty good. But that's about it since like the 1990s. But yeah, so they had a soul cake song, and that's kind of where trick-or-treating comes from. They did it all around Halloween.
All right.
And funny enough, who's the guy that played Dwight on The Office? Rainn Wilson. Rainn Wilson played Dwight in The Office. And he's a really spiritual guy. He has like a spiritual website and stuff called Soul Pancake.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right, so he had this Soul Pancake website and site, and he's a Baha'i, which is a super interesting religion. And I've actually been to one of the Baha'i temples, and it's very transparent, very open, very interesting. But Soul Pancakes, so now we know where he got the soul of the cake from.
There you go.
So that was something new I learned about Halloween, and I enjoyed learning that. Wendy, what's something that you learned?
Well, I got really curious about apple bobbing.
As you do.
Well, because I was at the store the other day and I wanted to buy some Honeycrisp apples, and I got a big bag of them, but they were like tiny little apples, you know? I'm like, oh, these would make for good apple bobbing apples, but they're not necessarily the greatest for like snacking apples, you know?
Sure. You want a big fat apple.
Yeah, I want to be able to, I don't want to have to eat like 3 of them.
Hell yeah.
So, but anyway, so I looked a little bit into it and I found some kind of cool things. First of all,
Kind of cool.
yeah. So first of all, just going back to what you were discussing before about the Romans, you know, converting the ancient Celtic holidays into like their own holiday, sort of trying to combine everything with the All Saints Day. Mm-hmm. What I read was that they combined the festivals, and the first festival was called Feralia, a day in late October where Romans marked the passing of the dead. And the second was Pomona, the Roman goddess of fruits and trees. The symbol for Pomona is an apple. And so some people think that that's the reason why bobbing for apples became a tradition associated with Halloween. How about that? Huh?
Okay. Yeah. I've never heard of Pomona before.
No. But going back to the game of apple bobbing, which is, you know, it's popular at Halloween parties. I had a Halloween party when I was a kid. My parents let me, and I went crazy with the decorating and all the treats and all that. But we did bob for apples, which now I think about it, very unsanitary.
Totally unsanitary because everybody puts their mouth like in the same thing of water. And
right.
It's
Like, so that's...
It's like stale water with the apples in it. Everybody's got their mouth in it. And I think today you'd
Germs.
need some kind of some kind of form for the kids to fill out. It'd be,
like a mouth guard.
Did we, did we clear this with your parents? We will be bobbing for apples, and you might hurt your teeth, or something might happen that damages your little mouth.
Right. So, I learned that there's another game in Ireland they called Snap Apple.
How do you play Snap Apple?
It's very similar, but they hang the apple from like a tree branch or a door frame, and then you have to try to grab it from underneath as opposed to like dunking into the water. Maybe more sanitary now that I think about it.
Yeah, but way harder.
I don't know.
And then you're like jumping up and down, and then you're sitting there, and then your face smacks against the apple, or you hit the tree.
But
anyway.
Yeah, they say that in Newfoundland and Labrador, they actually Snap Apple Night is a synonym for Halloween.
Oh, okay. So if we say tomorrow to somebody, Happy Snap Apple Night to you?
We could try it.
Yeah. Be like, Happy Snap Apple Night. And then I get punched.
But taking this down on a little bit further of a tangent, it's still related to Halloween. But when I was reading about apple bobbing and Snap Apple, I fell down the hyperlink rabbit hole
easy to do.
And discovered the game of Snapdragon, which is also known as Flapdragon.
Okay.
So it's got a few different names, but it was a parlor game from about the 16th century. And typically it was played in the winter time around Christmas, but people think that it was also a Halloween time activity. But get this, Mike.
I'm getting it.
So brandy was heated and placed in a wide, shallow bowl. Raisins were placed in the brandy, which was then set alight. That sounds fun, right?
Yeah, flaming brandy. I'm going to do that when I go home.
Yeah. So typically lights were extinguished or dimmed to increase the eerie effect of the blue flames playing across the liquor. The aim of the game was to pluck the raisins out of the burning brandy and eat them at the risk of being burnt.
Hey, wow.
Yeah.
So that's how they partied in the 16th century.
Yeah. So there was a quote from an 18th century article that said, "The wantonness of the thing was to see each other look like a demon as we burnt ourselves and snatched out the fruit." So the burning yourself is like part of the fun, I guess. But yeah,
all right,
that seems like a bit more hazardous. Maybe a grown-up game, not so much like at a kid's Halloween party, but...
Well, one of the verses of the Soul Cake song, they're looking for a strong beer. So they're like, give us a cake or a strong beer. And I like how.
But that's why we like Halloween. It's for everybody.
It is. But I love how the kids say, like, we're looking for they don't just want any beer. Like, these kids are like, no, don't give me a Michelob Golden Light.
Give me something real. I want a craft beer.
Yeah, I want a stout with like 8%. None of this. Right. I'm not. What am I on a diet? I'm poor. I'm already on a diet. See my ribs. Anyway, I like that. Well, that's a fun game. Well, when's the last time you had a flaming shot?
I think it was in Austin, Texas.
Yes.
When that guy made the lunchbox shots for us.
Yeah.
And he had to be all secretive about it because he'd get in trouble because they supposedly weren't allowed to do flaming shots.
Right.
But yeah, I've never been. Well, and also there's some desserts and things where they do that too. They set it alight.
Oh yeah, like a flaming mo. No, I don't know. I remember a flambeau. I mean, I've had a flaming dessert before, but I haven't thought about it in a while.
Isn't there one called is it Baked Alaska or? Oh, I can't remember.
I mean, there is something called Baked Alaska. I don't know if you set it on fire, but I do remember on my 21st birthday, I did order a flaming shot.
How'd it go?
Well, it was hot, but it was awesome. Well, you're 21, and so at midnight when you're 21, we went to Paul's Club in downtown, and you start just, when you first start drinking, you start going for all the weird stuff. You don't just stick to
absolutely.
Yeah, I'll have a Jack and Coke or whatever. It's like, no, I'm going to have a flaming shot and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, because suddenly this whole menu is open to you that you've never had access to before. So you got to find the coolest and the most unique things you can.
Right. And so I was like, but it was great. I mean, the bartender's like, what? Yeah, I'll do a flaming shot. Awesome. Because they want to show off and they know they get a good tip if they set something on fire for you.
Right.
And we did, and I loved it. So anyway, that's very interesting about the bobbing for apples.
So that's where it came from, and then Snapdragon is something that maybe we'll have to try.
Snapdragon, we're doing at the Sunspot Show on Friday.
That's right.
Snapdragon at the Sunspot Show. Mm-hmm. Here's something new I learned about Halloween, Wendy.
Oh, what's that, Mike?
Well, Halloween isn't just it wasn't just picked as this date for a random thing. Like I always thought Halloween was at this day because of number one, All Souls Day and All Saints Day. So what I figured what they did was they took the pagan festival of whatever kind of dressing like a spirit to avoid evil spirits in the time when the veil between the world of the dead and the world of the living was the thinnest. I thought that they just picked it randomly, like, you know what, we're gonna take this kind of festival they already have, and we're gonna put it right before our church festival that happens on November 1st and 2nd, and that's why I thought Halloween was this time of year. But no. The reason that Halloween is October 31st is because this is the exact halfway point between the autumnal equinox and the winter solstice. So there's an astronomical reason that they had it at this point. And so the Celts had Halloween. So really, October 31st is the date that the Celts celebrated Halloween. Because
it's their New Year's Eve.
Right. And, we think about like Christmas, like the actual day of Christmas was just picked out as the 25th of December because, they actually think that if Jesus was born in the year 0 or whatnot, that he'd probably been born sometime in September, not December. And we have Easter because Easter was a different holiday and they just kind of piggybacked on that holiday. But Halloween is October 31st is the day for magic. And it's called a cross-quarter day. And there's 4 cross-quarter days on the solar calendar. And I did not realize that Groundhog's Day is one of those days. So there's a reason that Groundhog's Day, February 1st, is we celebrate it. I always thought people just did it for fun, like it was a joke, Yeah,
because there's nothing else to do and it's cold. And it's like, hey, let's just liven up this time of year a bit.
But they picked that specifically because it's one of the quarter days. May Day is also one of the days. So we talked
That's why they have the maypole.
That's right. And we talked about May Day a bunch before. And Walpurgisnacht. We even wrote a story about Walpurgisnacht. And the original Mischief Nights and Devil's Night were Walpurgisnacht nights in that May Day celebration. Right. And also there's a day called Lammas Day. What? That's right. Lammas Day. So August 1st is the other quarter day. And it's called Lammas Day or Loaf Mass. It's people were celebrating the first wheat harvest in the British Isles. And so it's the first harvest of the season is that particular day, August 1st. So that's Lammas Day. And Lammas, they do things together, like they bundle sticks together, like the Blair Witch. For Lammas Day, that's part of the tradition. I guess it's big in Wicca. They'll do it when I'm looking up, like people are talking about Lammas Day, and they're like the hashtag pagan life, hashtag green witchcraft, hashtag witchy. I use that hashtag all the time. Hashtag pagans of Instagram.
Oh my.
So
okay.
So Lammas Day is a big party on August 1st. Bundle some sticks together like a little person, make the Blair Witch out of it. But yeah, the quarter holidays. So there is an astronomical reason why we have Halloween on October 31st. And it's not just a holiday picked out of nowhere. It's a holiday picked for a specific reason. So that was something I did not previously know about Halloween. And I thought that was interesting.
Indeed, it is.
So what's something else that you discovered, Wendy, in your search for Halloweeniness?
Okay, well, fire is a big deal around Halloween. People like to have bonfires. They light up their, pumpkins. At Lisa's party.
Yeah, somebody blew up a pumpkin.
Yeah, it was awesome. But do you ever wonder why it's called a bonfire?
I've never even thought about why it's called a bonfire. I thought it was named Mr. Bon Scott from AC/DC.
Okay, that's a reasonable assumption.
That is actually it doesn't make any sense. Because AC/DC was awesome, we're gonna name fire after bonfire.
I thought maybe it was the French word bon for good.
Yeah,
good fires. Why not?
As opposed to would a malfire be the bad one?
There you go. You are just so up on your français.
Look at me. I'm ribbiting like a frog.
But I was reading about Britain and the celebrations going on there, which is not a ton on actual Halloween, but on the evening of November 5th, they light bonfires and effigies are burned and fireworks are set off for Guy Fawkes Day.
Oh, remember the 5th of November.
That's right. So it's similar time of year. It's only like a week after Halloween, but it's not related to the Samhain Celtic tradition. But anyway.
Yeah.
So the Guy Fawkes Day festivities were designed to commemorate the execution of notorious English traitor Guy Fawkes. And since he was executed on November 5th, the first bonfires were called bone fires. And they were set up to burn effigies and symbolic bones of the Catholic Pope.
Oh, they hate the Pope.
Yeah. So there you go. Because Fawkes was a member of a Catholic group that wanted to remove the Protestant King James from power. So that's where it's all. So it goes down to the bonfires, bone fires. They weren't just fires, they were bone fires.
Ah, okay. And that's interesting. So they really didn't want to. I've never heard that about wanting to burn the Pope. Like, I know about Guy Fawkes masks. Obviously, V for Vendetta, we all in it. And I always said Guy Fawkes Day was an interesting holiday. Well, or a celebration, kind of like let's celebrate an execution kind of thing. And I knew that the whole thing, the Catholic versus Protestant and the Anglican Church, was pretty gruesome. I mean, that's Man for All Seasons. Thomas More, it's what he got executed because he wouldn't convert. And the whole Bloody Mary, that name Bloody Mary comes from when a Catholic queen took over, Queen Mary, she took over before Queen Elizabeth. She tried to convert the country back to Catholicism. And it went poorly. People fought, things like that. So she killed a lot of people and they called her Bloody Mary.
Well, the tradition has other similarities to our Halloween.
Let's hear about it.
Children sometimes walk the streets carrying an effigy or guy, and they go around asking for a penny for the guy. Sorry, that was terrible.
I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm just going to walk around when I'm trick-or-treating. Can I get a penny for the guy?
Just make yourself a little like voodoo doll kind of thing. And then they would keep the money for themselves. So it's kind of something similar to trick-or-treating, but the kids would go around and ask for a penny for the guy.
Can I get a penny for my guy? Well, I liked when people gave money for trick-or-treat. Did you like when people gave money for trick-or-treat?
Oh, yeah. One of our neighbors would always give us $1, like $1 bill.
Ooh, I'd go back to that neighbor, I'd change masks and keep going back.
That was my favorite. We didn't have nowadays I keep hearing about places like dentist's office that will exchange. They'll have like a little store the kids can go and exchange their candy for non-candy items.
Right.
And I've heard of parents buying their candy from the kids. I swear if my parents did that, I probably would have just gone for all the cash.
Right. Well,
maybe kept a Twix bar for myself, but
I would have ran away. I'd have been like, that's it. I'm out. I'm done. I would have ran away from home if my parents would try to take away my Halloween candy.
No, it's not taking it away. They buy it from you, so you're turning your candy into cash.
Or actually, what I could do probably is if you got enough cash, then you just go to the clearance sale at Walgreens
and buy.
Whatever.
Oh my gosh, you could multiply your candy. That's brilliant.
Bingo. So that actually, I would recommend that to children everywhere to do the buyback program, go and get even more candy, and then just pig out for like a week.
Or then you could take that candy and save it for next year, and then sell it back, and you're like doubling your money, tripling it.
These are candy investment strategies from the See You on the Other Side podcast. # candy investment strategies.
Yes.
No, that's pretty good. Hey, well, we had a dentist in our neighborhood, and he would give like a toothbrush, like a mini toothbrush.
Ooh.
And that was okay. Like because he was a really nice guy. Like everyone's like, oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
We had an Avon lady, and she'd give you candy, and then she'd give you like an Avon sampler. She's like, and this
that's cute.
And
that's very enterprising.
This is trick or treat for your mom, and she was always nice. And then there was the people who had like no soliciting on their doors or whatever.
Yeah.
There was one lady in my neighborhood who had a thing that said, "No soliciting. If you sit on this door for more than 5 minutes, the police will be called." It was really like that. It was like, I will call the police.
That's hostile. Did anybody ever give you an orange? That always annoyed me.
No, not too much fruit.
I don't want fruit.
That's nature's candy.
Our bus driver would give us popcorn balls, and that was awesome. She was awesome.
My bus driver would give me slips and kick me off the bus for several days.
Like, you were naughty.
I was naughty. But so we get nothing from a bus driver, which is too bad. But no, that's pretty cool. That bonfires on the 5th of November. So that's what we call a bonfire. Well, that makes me like bonfires even more, because now that makes bonfires sound
more Halloween-y.
Yeah, something totally Halloween-y.
Yeah, not just like a campfire. It's It's a bonfire, yo.
Yeah, we are
This
gonna
is
light it
spooky.
up. So, I mean, if you guys have any kind of weird Halloween traditions or anything like that, or things that maybe you didn't know about Halloween, but excited you to learn about them, you can always send us a tweet at Other Side Talk. Is probably the best way to reach us.
And Mike,
Yes.
we're celebrating Halloween with a Sunspot only playlist of Halloween themed songs.
That's right. You have a chance to get our weirdest songs in your ear holes by checking out our Halloween playlist. And that's on Instagram. How can people find that, Wendy?
If you go to Instagram and check out Other Side Podcast, you'll see us explaining each of the songs in the countdown from 10 to 1. So the top 10 Sunspot. We've got a lot of weird songs, but we kind of picked our favorite ones for this season to share with you. And we'll put that playlist up online so you can tune in.
Yeah, so you can enjoy that too. So we're making your Halloween playlist a little bit easier. So it could be Monster Mash and Thriller and a couple songs from Rocky Horror, and then just all.
And I Put a Spell on You.
Oh yeah, I Put a Spell on You. It's a good one too. Screaming Jay.
And the Season of the Witch.
Yeah, Season of the Witch. If you're into the psychedelic stuff, get a little Donovan in your life. I know you want some Donovan in your life. Happy Halloween,
That melody
Yellow Man himself. Anyway, yes. So please check that stuff out. And speaking of songs that we're talking about,
really?
We're talking about kids and Halloween and the '80s and nostalgia and everything. I think the song this week.
I don't know why I was kind of goes
back to
the
that.
middle of my thing.
Now,
Happy
Wendy,
Halloween. So let's try it again.
Do you remember the first time you ever got your heart broken? Okay, so you start.
Of course.
Okay, now how old were you think?
Oh, probably.
Happy Halloween,
college
Wendy.
age.
Okay. Well, so that sticks
What are you
with
going
you,
as
right?
this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sticks with you. And you think about those things. The first time I got my heart broken, I was like, I don't know, 13 years old. Yeah, maybe 14. No, I think I was 13 years old. But I remember it very clearly.
Yes, you did have a good one.
And
on
it's
Saturday
funny.
night.
We're thinking about the inspiration for this song. It wasn't any particular incident
That's
or
all right.
something. But sometimes you think about something, or you think of someone a certain way, or think of a situation a certain way, and realize that you're thinking about it that way because of something that happened to you when you're 13
Well,
years old.
Magenta, you got to get your hairspray ready.
No.
Yeah.
for that one.
No, I am a completely different person. I mean, maybe
Good.
not
Well, that's a lot
that
of
different.
fun.
Sometimes
Well,
I still
you don't
feel
have
like
to feel
I'm
bad that
13.
you've been the
But
same,
most of the time, I
costume
realized
since
that 13-year-old,
2008
didn't know what
because
the hell was going
I
on.
wore the same Star Trek
Yeah.
uniform I've had
And
for 21
so when you look at things from the perspective
years.
of a 13-year-old, or you look at something from these events happen that
Yeah.
emotionally scar us.
That's right.
And-
So I've had that
and
same
this
Star
song,
Trek
it's
shirt
a little about like
since 1996.
like a harvest
so I wore
dance,
that
I
on
think was
Saturday
the
'cause I didn't
setting we
feel
think
like
about when we
doing
write it,
anything.
and that's the idea. But the thought that these things stick with you through time, and even when they shouldn't, and sometimes you have to realize that ancient history is just that. And this is Ancient History by Sunspot.
thank you for listening to today's episode. You can find us online at OthersidePodcast.com. Until next time, see you on the other side.
Happy Halloween to our Patreon members.
Happy Halloween to the coolest people we know. Thank you very much for being part of the See You on the Other Side podcast community. What's going on this week, Wendy?
Oh, we're so excited because we're going to have our Google Hangout and we are going to talk about Halloween movies. And we're going to watch a movie and discuss it. So I'm looking forward to that. And everybody, don't forget to wear your costumes because I want to see some Halloween spirit.
That's right. So it's going to be on the Google Hangouts. We bring the videos. So if you guys haven't had a chance to check out our Google Hangouts yet, and if you're not a Patreon member, you haven't, go to OthersidePodcast.com/donate, and you'll learn more about connecting with the group of people that enjoy seeing their side, talking more about your favorite stuff with me, Wendy, my sister Allison, different guests we've had in the show before. And well, it's just a fun time to hang out, usually having some wine or some beers, and this week wearing a costume.
That's right. And decorations. You know, whatever. Bring your Halloween spirit because it's going to be a spooky good time.
Right. If you're not wearing a costume, you can just say, I'm going as a guy that doesn't have a costume, and that's okay too.
That's right. But we want to give a special Halloween shout out to Dr. Ned.
Dr. Ned, you treat us every month with that level of Patreon sponsorship where you get a shout out in every single episode. So Dr. Ned, thank you very much for making it a very happy Halloween for Wendy and I.
Yes. Happy Halloween.
Oh, sir, we'll pray for the soul of you and your family if you give us that little cake. I'll pray for you, sir, if you give me a spot of cake.
A penny for the guy.
Can I get a penny for the guy?
Ask for a penny for the guy.
Can I get a penny for my guy?
Boogity boogity.